Gen Z is facing a modern age problem. There's been a huge increase of young adults who are talented at a lot of things, yet somehow still have nothing to show for any of it. I know this is true because I am literally that person. I'm 27 years old, and in the past 7 years, I've learned that the more things you're good at and the more options you have, the harder it is to actually commit to one thing, especially a traditional career path. This problem affects Gen Z specifically because we grew up in a sweet spot. We're old enough to understand what the world was like before the internet, social media, and AI, and young enough to see what the world will look like afterwards. Having this unlimited access to the internet and social media has allowed you to witness the rise and fall of different career paths. Content creator became a real job title you can search for on job sites. Digital marketing is a skill companies pay millions for every year. Working with AI will become the standard for online work. This is the new system we live in, and you're able to see it all happening in real time. This allows us to become aware of opportunities and lifestyles we otherwise wouldn't have known about, making it less likely to settle and stick with just one thing. I mean, Google wasn't even invented until 1998, and I was born in 99, and most of you around the same time as well. But most households didn't have computers with internet until about 2010. I know 2010 seems like forever ago, but if you zoom out, you realize that this is all still very new, and society has only had internet since we were born. I look back at all of the routes I took in my life. Before I was permanently online, I followed what everyone around me was doing. When I graduated, they asked every student to write down what their aspirations are. Most said doctor, lawyer, business, the usual stuff, and where I'm from, it was actually a lot of farmers and agriculture. I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I played it safe and said I wanted to attend the local college and study a trade, welding to be specific. I remember when they announced it out loud and knowing deep down inside that that isn't really what I wanted to do. I made myself go to the local community college and start taking classes. I remember showing up to my basic courses with no enthusiasm, no drive to continue going at all. I felt so out of place, and eventually I dropped out without even finishing the semester. This is when I discovered making music. I wanted to be a famous rapper so bad, just like most young guys in late 2010s. I taught myself how to make beats, then how to record songs, then how to mix and master it all. I was posting on YouTube and SoundCloud before I discovered distribution to streaming platforms. When I discovered the distribution side, I thought this was a game changer for me, and I seriously thought I was going to blow up. And when it didn't happen is when I started pivoting into other things. I started making YouTube videos, little vlogs here and there throughout this whole process. I noticed that YouTube is the main thing in my life that I always came back to over the last 7 years. And when that didn't work right away, I pivoted again. Mind you, during this time I'm working as a server, hopping from restaurant to restaurant, still not sure what I'm really doing. And then came my Picasso phase. I like to doodle in my drawing pad, and eventually I discovered I was pretty good at drawing with chalk as well. I did some drawings in public places, and I got to the point where I even got paid to make chalk art live at a local fair. This was huge for me at the time, and people would stop and watch me as I drew pretty accurate cartoon characters, and people would even leave me tips in a tip jar that I would put out. I put out the tip jar because I was door dashing for money at this point. I quit the job that I was working before, and I still wanted to make my dreams come true. I still didn't have a real monetization plan. I just hoped that all my efforts would somehow pay off. The problem is, during this time, I would spend all of my free time hanging around at the bars, draining my bank account, getting way too faded, and just making a fool of myself. Nothing seemed to be going right in my life, but I still kept trying to make it happen. I pivoted back into music during this time when art wasn't really paying off. I was working random jobs at this point and even got a job at the local zoo as a zookeeper. I thought zookeeping might be my next passion. I truly thought I found my calling. But life always found a way of giving me a reason to step away from the path that I was on. Whether it was self-inflicted or out of my control, at this point I've pivoted so many times that I'm used to it. I don't get that huge sense of anxiety anymore when I decide to quit a job or step away from an opportunity, which sounds like a bad thing, but can also be a good thing, I hope. Out of all of these pivots, I learned two things. One, I got good at making content. Content creation is one thing that I stuck to this whole time, and it's the one thing I always circle back to. And two, there's a difference between being a Renaissance man and being a professional starter. One builds a real body of work. The other builds a really impressive list of things they almost did. Yeah, let that sink in for a moment. It's not that you have too many interests, it's that you're using them as an escape hatch. Every time one thing gets hard, another interest conveniently appears. This is the truth that you eventually have to face yourself. Whatever route you decide to take, you need to ask yourself if this is something you're going to stick to even if it gets hard. This isn't about having multiple interests anymore. This is about escaping the hard work and discomfort. People who become successful always say there's a period where it gets hard, and that's usually the period right before things really start to take off. In an Alex Hormozy video, he called it the Valley of Despair. You start high with uninformed optimism. You've never done it before, so you feel really good about it, but you don't really know what it's going to take yet. Then you start to decline down into informed pessimism, which is where most fall off because you've now seen how hard you'll have to work to make it happen and are starting to have doubts or fears or lost motivation completely. But you know that if you stuck with it through the valley, you reach a state of informed optimism, which is where you've had experience and you've seen what it takes to get there and you're still ready to go all in. This is where things will really start to take off for you. This whole idea really resonated with me when I watched that video, as I'm someone who's given up or pivoted at informed pessimism countless times. I've learned that if you continuously avoid doing anything hard, you develop an intolerance for hard work, which is a nice way of saying becoming a lazy ass. I'm slightly more sympathetic towards people like this because I know what it's like to be stuck in your head not knowing what to do, so you just end up doing nothing. But I also know that sometimes someone just has to call it how it is. Pivoting every time something gets hard is the reason people turn 60 and realize they never did anything meaningful or took any risks. They just sat in their room playing Fallout 4 all day long, building up settlements and marrying video game characters. This is all hypothetical, by the way. I think the reason why Luffy is one of the top 10 most famous anime characters of all time is not because of his rubber stretching powers, but because Luffy has had one goal since the show aired in October 20th, 1999, to become King of the Pirates. He never changes his mindset or his original goal, and that's what makes him respectable. Imagine if one episode he wants to become King of the Pirates, and the next he decides he wants to be the best swordsman in the world. Then the next thing you know, he wants to be the best chef in the world, wasting time trying to achieve all three at once. He would never make any progress and nobody would believe in him. When you clearly define what your goal is and stick to it no matter what, the world respects you whether they actually agree with it or like it or not. You're no longer a lazy pushover with no direction. You're a respected decision maker with a path in front of you. Being multi-talented isn't the problem. Mistaking experimentation for progress is. It can feel very rewarding when you learn something new and start fresh. Sometimes it's a really good thing. The problem is that feeling ends up fading away, leaving you with the boring, repetitive tasks that have to be done whether you like it or not. Your motivation will fluctuate, and when it disappears, you'll have to rely solely on the discipline of doing the thing every single day. Because the reality is, the thing either gets done or it doesn't. The trap I kept falling into was searching up new ideas and trying to brainstorm all of these brand new ways to make money online or build some sort of digital product that will make me rich quick. And every time I started fresh with something, I felt really good about it to the point that I'd go all in and eventually end up falling flat on my face when reality hits and the work becomes real. When you finally decide what path you're going to take, I'm not going to say stick with it for 5 years. I'm not going to say stick with it for 6 months. I'm going to say stick with it for 3 months, 90 days. By the end of the 3 months, I guarantee you would have built up the habit and the momentum to keep going as long as you stuck with it every day. You can't just randomly log in and start grinding. You have to define what level of success you're aiming for and what specific path you're going to take. For me, my long-term goal is simple. Of course, this is going to change as time progresses, but it's 50K subscribers on YouTube and at least $5,000 a month in profit recurring revenue, and being able to confidently say that I've helped 1,000 young guys who were just like me open their eyes to their full potential and actually use their talents to create a life they've always wanted to live. I've learned that there's a certain point in the journey where you have to realize your strategy might be wrong or misled, and you simply need to adjust your approach, not find a new passion all over again. For me, the thing that never went away was content creation. I've always come back to making YouTube videos, and I don't think I'll ever be satisfied until I've actually made it work. This doesn't mean you need to become a content creator. When it comes to actually picking which path you should take, pick the one thing that you keep coming back to even after you've quit multiple times. That's probably your thing. Go all in for 90 days and really give it your best shot. Don't give up after those 90 days if it doesn't happen right away. Gather your data and take all the feedback you can get from the work that you've put in, analyze it using AI, and implement any improvements you need to make it work. You know now that you don't lack skills or talents, you just lack structure and focus. That doesn't just go away over time. It's not just going to magically disappear as you get older. It only goes away when you finally take action. And the ones who take action are the ones who get ahead of even the most talented. So don't waste your potential. Tell me down below in the comments, what's the one thing that you always come back to? The one thing that pops into your head every time and you can't seem to get away from? And what's holding you back from going all in on it?